French Connection, The Conversation, Superman. These titles are legendary, and so was the man behind them. But now Gene Hackman has left us at the age of 95. When federal agents rolled up to Gene Hackman's sprawling estate, they thought it was a standard check-in. They were dead wrong. Nothing could have prepared them for the nightmare hiding behind the closed doors of the famous actor's property. The lifeless bodies of the Hollywood titan and his wife Betsy were found inside their secluded New Mexico sanctuary. Hackman was a master of wearing masks on screen, but in his private life the curtain has been pulled back to reveal disturbing questions that have been buried for years. Was this a tragic accident, a cold case finally coming to light, or something far more sinister? As the pieces of this grim puzzle start coming together, fans across the globe are stunned, asking the same chilling question: who was the real Gene Hackman? Once the director yelled cut, stick around as we peel back the layers of this unfolding tragedy and dig into the gritty details. Let's get into the shocking scene at the Hackman estate. A heavy cloud of suspicion is hanging over the demise of the two-time Academy Award winner and his partner Betsy Arakawa after their remains were located in their massive residence in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Initially, law enforcement played it cool, stating there were no obvious signs of a struggle. The rumor mill started spinning, blaming carbon monoxide poisoning as the likely culprit. But hold on, because the narrative has taken a sharp 180. Detectives are now flagging these deaths as highly suspicious and have kicked off a full-blown federal investigation. The nightmare began when two maintenance workers stumbled upon the scene. According to the warrant, they showed up for a standard repair job only to find the front door wide open, a massive red flag. Meanwhile, two of the couple's dogs were found running wild on the property. But here is where it gets truly disturbing. A third dog was discovered deceased, locked inside a crate, a detail that has investigators scratching their heads. The timeline is terrifying, judging by the advanced state of decay and mummification of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. It is clear they did not just pass away yesterday. They had been lying there undiscovered for a significant stretch of time. Betsy Arakawa was located in the bathroom after authorities swept the rest of the house. The scene described is heartbreaking and chaotic. She was found on the floor close to a countertop that was littered with loose pills and an uncapped medication bottle. This specific detail ignited a firestorm of theories. Did she accidentally overdose? Was it a sudden medical crisis? Or was this a staged scene masking a darker truth? One veteran detective on the case admitted the math just does not work. He stated, "This scenario makes zero sense to me. I have worked thousands of death investigations throughout my career, and it is a statistical anomaly for two people to just drop dead simultaneously without a catastrophic external factor." When the federal investigators stepped onto the scene, sources say they were visibly rattled by the condition of the corpses. An insider close to the probe described the atmosphere as absolute disbelief, noting, "In this job, you get used to death, but this was on another level." The decomposition was so advanced, it felt like time had literally stopped inside those walls. It begs the question everyone is asking. How does one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood, along with his wife, vanish from the radar for so long while they lay decaying? In their own living room, authorities are banking on the autopsy results to provide the missing piece of the puzzle and explain what actually went down. At this moment, nothing is off the table. They are looking at everything: natural causes, freak, accidents, and yes, even homicide. Gene Hackman, who had reached the impressive age of 95, was a true heavyweight in the industry. He took home Oscars for his gritty performance in The French Connection and the Western masterpiece Unforgiven, racking up credits in over 80 movies. For a lot of us, he will always be the brilliant villain Lex Luthor in Superman or the patriarch in The Royal Tenenbaums. Critics always raved about his range. He could flip from intense drama to high-octane action and then land a comedy role without breaking a sweat. As one historian put it, "You believed him when he held a gun, you felt his pain in the dramas, and he was downright hilarious in hits like Get Shorty." His talent was undeniable. Hackman officially hung up his acting hat back in 2009, mentioning health issues. The last time he walked a carpet was way back in 2003 to accept the Cecil B. DeMille Award at the Golden Globes. Fast forward to 2023 and he was spotted publicly for the final time grabbing a bite with his wife in New Mexico. He appeared frail, leaning on a cane and clinging to Betsy's arm for stability. The confirmation of his death has sent shockwaves rippling through Tinseltown. Gwyneth Paltrow, his co-star from the Royal Tenenbaums, hopped on social media to pay her respects, posting a nostalgic photo of the two of them accompanied by a simple broken heart emoji. Following the grisly discovery, the New Mexico Gas Company was immediately summoned to sweep the premises as carbon monoxide was the leading theory early on. Detectives needed to rule out an environmental killer, but here is the twist. After a thorough inspection of every single pipe and gas line, the technicians found 0 leaks. Everything was tight and the investigation is wide open as police continue to bag evidence and wait on the toxicology reports to come back from the lab. Officials have promised the public they will get to the bottom of this mysterious and tragic double fatality involving Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. What exactly transpired behind the closed doors of the Hackman residence during their final lonely days? Could these bizarre clues point toward a scandal or a hidden secret? Let's dive deeper into the theories and the questions that remain dangerously unanswered. The sudden and tragic loss of Hollywood legend Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa has left the world in shock. Reports indicate their bodies were found in a state of mummification, leading investigators to ask some disturbing questions about exactly how long the couple had been deceased inside their home and what specifically triggered their untimely passing. While initial theories are swirling around natural causes, a freak accident, or perhaps a heartbreaking decision to end things on their own terms, others are speculating that something far more mysterious and sinister might have gone down. When law enforcement first arrived on the scene, they discovered the front door was standing wide open, which immediately raised massive red flags. Investigators are scrambling to figure out if the couple opened it themselves, perhaps seeking help during a medical emergency, or if a third party had entered the premises and fled just before the authorities showed up. Inside the residence, Hackman was discovered in a small mudroom located near the rear entrance. The scene suggested he may have taken a hard fall as his walking cane and a pair of sunglasses were lying right there beside him. Meanwhile, Arakawa was found quite a distance away in a bathroom on the opposite side of the property. In a troubling detail, a portable space heater had been knocked over and loose pills were scattered across the vanity counter next to an uncapped prescription bottle. The couple shared their home with 3 beloved pets. Miraculously, 2 of the animals were still clinging to life, but tragically one was found deceased inside its crate. The survival of the 2 free-roaming dogs suggests they had access to food or water sources for quite some time, but the heartbreaking fate of the dog locked in the crate points to severe starvation and dehydration. This grim detail heavily supports the working theory that the legendary actor and his wife had been dead for several days or potentially even weeks. Forensic experts weigh in, noting that remaining in an environment with warm, dry air for an extended period can cause human skin to undergo a mummification process, becoming leathery or stiff. Since this transformation usually requires a timeline of days to weeks, it implies the couple had likely passed away quite a while before being found. It remains unclear exactly how hot the house was during that time, but the presence of the space heater near Arakawa implies they were actively heating the room. This likely sucked the moisture out of the air, inadvertently accelerating the preservation process. However, until the coroner completes extensive testing, pinning down the precise time of death remains a guessing game. Initially, authorities seemed to rule out the possibility of carbon monoxide poisoning, primarily because fire crews and utility workers reported finding absolutely no evidence of a gas leak at the scene, and preliminary autopsy notes seemed to agree. Furthermore, there were no signs of forced entry suggesting anyone had broken into the residence, and a visual inspection of the bodies didn't reveal any obvious trauma or injuries. Despite these initial findings, detectives are refusing to close the book and are keeping all avenues of investigation wide open. The rumour mill has gone into overdrive, with some wondering if this was a murder-suicide scenario where one spouse took the other's life before ending their own. However, crime scene analysts point out the lack of violence, and usually in those tragic instances, individuals leave a suicide note or arrange the scene in a specific, deliberate manner which simply does not match the chaotic reality found here. Another prevailing theory is a suicide pact where the couple decided to go out together, perhaps driven by deteriorating health issues. In classic cases like that, you typically find the deceased lying peacefully next to one another after an overdose, but the fact that they were discovered in completely different rooms makes that explanation feel inconsistent and unlikely. A more heartbreaking possibility is that a domino effect occurred. One of them passed away first, maybe from a sudden fall, and acute illness or an accidental overdose, and the surviving spouse, overwhelmed by grief or confusion, followed shortly after. If Hackman collapsed in the mudroom, Arakawa might have panicked upon finding him and taken medication in a state of severe distress. However, this is all just speculation until toxicology reports confirm if any specific substances played a role in this tragedy. Investigators are also considering environmental factors such as extreme dehydration or exposure to an undetected toxin. To build a clearer picture, detectives are currently combing through their entire medical history to determine if either of them suffered from underlying health conditions that could explain such a sudden and simultaneous decline. With no smoking gun yet, the investigation is turning over every stone, looking at all potential evidence. Full toxicology and tissue tests on the bodies could take weeks or even months to finalise. In the meantime, police are subpoenaing phone records, analysing emails and reviewing recent doctor visits to see if there were any warning signs in the days leading up to the silence. The public has also raised questions about whether a third person could be part of this puzzle. Even without signs of a break-in, that open front door is a nagging detail that suggests someone might have been inside the home. The big question is whether that person was a friend, a delivery driver who stumbled upon the scene and fled, or someone with bad intentions. As it stands, the official cause of death is marked as undetermined. Whether this was a heartbreaking accident, a conscious choice they made together, or something far more complex remains the ultimate mystery until the medical examiner provides concrete scientific answers. Fans around the world will continue to speculate about the final days of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. But with the case shrouded in so much uncertainty, perhaps the insight of those who knew them best can clarify the situation. Don't go anywhere, because we are diving deeper into the family's reaction. Specifically, we are unravelling the carbon monoxide theory. Gene Hackman's daughter has broken her silence regarding her father's sad passing at the age of 95, and she is convinced that carbon monoxide poisoning is the true culprit. On Thursday, Elizabeth Gene Hackman spoke exclusively to TMZ, stating she firmly believes toxic fumes are the reason her father and stepmother are gone. A local gas company has confirmed they are actively cooperating with authorities to investigate what happened to the famous couple. Additionally, Leslie Ann Hackman, another of Gene's daughters, opened up to the Daily Mail following the news that her father passed away. She emphasised that despite his advanced age, the actor was in remarkably good physical condition. She explained that there were zero red flags regarding his health leading up to the event, which is why she strongly suspects a gas leak or carbon monoxide exposure played a fatal role. In her own words, even at 95, he was incredibly fit. She also noted that he hadn't undergone any major surgeries, recently making a natural death feel impossible to accept. Just a few months before he left us, Leslie opened up about her dad's daily routine, revealing that he was still hitting the mat for Pilates and yoga multiple times a week. She mentioned that those workouts were his secret weapon for staying sharp. While saying goodbye to him at 95 wasn't entirely a shock, losing Betsy Arakawa at just 63 was a complete curveball that left everyone looking for answers. Leslie painted a picture of their marriage as incredibly solid, noting, "I honestly believe Betsy was the fuel that kept his engine running all these years." She couldn't stop talking about how deeply Betsy doted on him, always hovering to make sure he was feeling his best. Betsy took absolutely stellar care of him, constantly monitoring his health like a hawk. Leslie added, "For all of that, I am beyond grateful to her, and it just breaks my heart that she's gone too." For those unfamiliar with the family tree, Elizabeth is one of the 3 kids Hackman shared with his first wife, Faye Maltese. That marriage spanned 3 decades, lasting from 1956 until they called it quits in 1986. Sadly, Maltese passed on back in 2017. Gene eventually found love again, tying the knot with Betsy Arakawa in 1991. Once he walked away from the glitz of Hollywood, he kept an incredibly low profile, becoming almost a ghost to the public eye. In fact, he only popped up recently for a rare sighting at a comedy show in his hometown. Now, Gene's daughters Elizabeth and Leslie, along with his granddaughter Annie, are absolutely crushed by the loss. It is a heartbreak that hits different. With the heaviest of hearts, we have to share the devastating news that our father Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy have both passed away. They emphasise that while the world idolised him for his legendary screen presence at home, he was just a regular guy. To us, he was simply Dad and Grandpa. Losing him creates a void that no amount of words can ever fix, and we are completely destroyed right now. While Elizabeth, Leslie and Annie Hackman expressed in an emotional statement to People magazine. Tributes are pouring in as fellow stars reflect on the massive footprint Hackman left on cinema, with heavy hitters like Clint Eastwood and Morgan Freeman paying their respects. Eastwood, who not only directed but also starred. Alongside Hackman in the 1992 masterpiece Unforgiven, didn't hold back his praise. He stated plainly that no actor in the game had more raw talent than Gene. Every performance he gave was grounded, real and powerful, never anything less than absolute perfection, Eastwood said in a touching statement released on February 27th. But it went deeper than work. He was a close personal friend, and I'm going to miss him more than I can say. He added, even at his age, the final curtain call of Gene Hackman is sending shockwaves through the industry. But man, did he leave a mark. It makes you wonder, how did Gene Hackman go? From being just an average guy to becoming one of the most revered titans in Hollywood history, building a body of work that will be studied and celebrated for generations to come. Don't go anywhere. We are diving deep into Gene Hackman's legendary run and his truly unforgettable legacy. Hackman actually kicked off his journey at the prestigious Pasadena Playhouse in California. But here is the kicker: his classmates and teachers didn't think he had the goods. They actually voted him least likely to succeed. But Hackman didn't let that stop him. If anything, their doubt was just fuel for the fire, inspiring him to prove them all wrong and show the world what he was really made of. He was still grinding at the Pasadena Playhouse when he struck up a friendship with another future icon, Dustin Hoffman. In the beginning, though, Hackman couldn't catch a break. Despite going to countless auditions, he kept getting the door slammed in his face, mostly because he didn't fit the typical movie star look or style, but he refused to quit pushing forward regardless of the rejection and the odds stacked against him. He kept his head down and kept grinding. He took whatever theatre gigs he could get playing small parts and sharpening his craft every single day. Eventually, when he started landing bit parts in TV shows and movies, that persistence began to pay dividends. His big screen debut was in Lilith, but it was Bonnie and Clyde that really put him on the map. His performance as Clyde's brother Buck Barrow was so raw and emotional that it felt effortless. The Academy took notice, nominating him for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor because the critics and fans loved his work. That was the turning point. He finally broke out of the supporting actor box and established himself as one of Hollywood's hottest rising stars. Then came the role of Popeye Doyle, the gritty, no-nonsense cop in William Friedkin's 1971 classic, The French Connection, which basically strapped a rocket to his career. In that crime thriller, he played a guy who was tough as nails but deeply complicated, wrestling with his own morality while chasing down bad guys. Hackman became one of the biggest names in the business after that tour. DeForce earned him the Oscar for Best Actor. The movie was a massive blockbuster and basically wrote the blueprint for every cop movie that followed. Thanks to that role, Hackman was officially royalty in the film industry. After crushing it in The French Connection, Hackman didn't slow down. He kept snagging massive roles. In 1974, he teamed up with director Francis Ford Coppola for The Conversation, starring as Harry Cole, a paranoid surveillance expert drowning in guilt and isolation. This gig allowed Hackman to flex some serious dramatic muscles, and the movie was even nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Critics went wild for him, with many calling it the finest performance of his entire life. Throughout the 1970s, he owned the screen in hits like Scarecrow, where he shared the marquee with Al Pacino. The film spun a heartbreaking tale of friendship and drifters, and the incredible chemistry between the two leads made the story hit even harder. Then, in 1978, Hackman took a hard left turn to play Lex Luthor in Superman, going toe-to-toe with Christopher Reeve. He brought a brilliant mix of humour and menace to the character, turning Luthor into one of the most iconic villains in cinema history. This role proved that Hackman wasn't just a serious, dramatic heavy hitter, but could also light up the screen and entertain the masses with ease. Humour and undeniable charm. But as Hackman's career skyrocketed to astronomical heights, he kept delivering those gritty, unforgettable performances we all loved. However, when the cameras stopped rolling, was the crushing pressure of Hollywood and the relentless march of time silently destroying his health to get the full story stick around. Let's dive deep into Gene Hackman's quiet battles and his serious health scares. During a chaotic year where he starred in 3 major 1990 blockbusters, Loose, Cannon's Postcards from the Edge and Narrow Margin, Hackman was also forced to undergo an emergency medical intervention to stop a massive heart attack in its tracks. At 60 years old, he had to have an angioplasty, a delicate procedure where doctors insert a tiny balloon-tipped tube to force open a dangerously clogged artery right near the heart. The story broke via United Press International. Back in 1990, we caught it just in the nick of time, Dr. Herbert Semler told UPI reporters. Fortunately, the blockage was situated in a spot where we could easily access it with the balloon catheter and clear the obstruction. Before the surgery, Hackman had been suffering from agonising chest pains that radiated down his arm while he was vacationing in Oregon, according to the UPI report. Medical experts claimed he was literally hours away from a fatal cardiac event. Dr. Semler also noted that Hackman had zero history of heart issues, attributing the sudden blockage purely to the aging process. In a 2004 sit-down with legendary host Larry King on CNN, Hackman opened up about the ordeal. When King asked if the experience terrified him, Gene played it cool. No, not exactly. I didn't really grasp the severity of the situation back then, so ignorance was bliss, Hackman admitted. It was a whirlwind. I checked in and was discharged the very same day. King then pressed him on whether he feared for his health. Hackman answered, I do my best to look after myself. I don't harbour too many fears. I suppose we all worry about the end as we get older. My number one priority is ensuring my wife and family are financially set for the future. Beyond that, I don't worry much. However, in a revealing 2009 chat with Empire magazine, Hackman finally confessed that his health was the driving force behind his exit from acting. The doctor warned me my heart just wasn't in the shape to handle that kind of stress anymore, Hackman revealed. In retirement, he found peace in horseback riding, fishing, painting, and catching low-budget flicks. With his wife down in New Mexico, he also pivoted to literature, co-authoring 3 historical fiction novels with archaeologist Daniel Lenihan, and penning solo westerns and crime thrillers. Writing brings a different type of pressure, he explained. It is manageable because you are in control. It's just you in a room rather than 100 crew members staring at you, waiting for magic. But his heart wasn't the only scare. Tragedy nearly struck in 2012 when a car slammed into his bike while he was riding in Islamorada, Florida. The Florida Highway Patrol reported to CNN that Hackman, who was 81 at the time, wasn't wearing a helmet. When a pickup truck clipped the rear tire of his bicycle, he was immediately airlifted to the Ryder Trauma Center in Miami for emergency care. Hackman's rep later clarified to Reuters that the truck only gave him a light tap and the dramatic airlift was just standard protocol because the accident happened on an island. She confirmed he suffered only minor bumps and bruises and was sent home after a brief recovery. Now, regarding the rumours circulating online, do you believe the reports surrounding the death of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, were truly due to natural causes? Let us know your theories in the comments section below. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We hope you enjoyed the story. Make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe. Tap the video appearing on your screen right now to catch up on more shocking celebrity sagas. Catch you in the next one.